participating in this telecast, saying that particularly that dawn ceremony, that dawn service, that dawn performance at the Opera House had really inspired people, and they're all very thrilled. How could they not be?
Go Aussie.
Go. Our Opera House,
That's
our
right.
celebrations. But I'm going to leave you guys to it.
Have a happy New Year, Jennifer.
I
Have a happy millennium.
I have a happy millennium.
Come back.
Yeah.
We can do it again in 1,000 years, perhaps.
Yes. And you're going to be on. You're going to be on telly all this year, aren't you?
Later on in the year, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'll run into you in the makeup room and
Yeah.
say hi.
Yeah.
And look, it's been really fun.
See you,
Thanks very
Jennifer.
much. See you guys.
See you, you were great.
Well, from the greatness of the New World, with the celebrations in Australia and also New Zealand, the eastern part, of course, things moved west to Europe, where we've captured some of the highlights from the Eiffel Tower to Madrid to Scandinavia, and we're going to look at some of those highlights now.
Of 2000, the millennium have reached us up here on the top of Europe, North Cape. And we say to all the world,
Buon millennio a tutti quanti.
Well, I'm not really surprised that the Dubliners have got a good opportunity and know how to party. They do it all the time and so well. James, I know that you're struck by the funny hats that you've seen.
There's been some great hats. And I always feel I haven't really fully participated in New Year's Eve unless I've donned a stupid hat at some point. I think about 10 minutes ago we saw some footage from the ice wedding in Sweden, and there was the bloke performing the ceremony had this fantastic thing that looked like a giant oversized cabbage had just fallen from the ceiling and wedged itself on his head. So more silly hats, I think.
It's an occasion, of course, for sparkles and confetti, and in a sense that's the sort of material that's come in from all over the world in the last 16 or so hours. It's beaming in from more than 60 countries, and our producers here have been wading through all this material and culling some of it for our pleasure now. We can't put it all to air, so we're just going to look at a little of places that we haven't been to so far, from Sri Lanka for one, and also from the Epcot Centre in Florida, the Disney Centre in the USA. There's an interesting ritual in Sri Lanka where a lamp is lit daily in the morning in every Sri Lankan home in the hope that its rays will brighten their lives. And on New Year Day, of course, lighting of the lamp signifies the many customs and rituals associated with the dawn of the new era. These customs and practices are unique to Sri Lanka and reflect both the vividness and hopefully the harmony of the many cultures in Sri Lanka, a country, of course, racked in recent years by civil war. Well, on this, the dawn of the new year and the new millennium, 9 children, representing the 9 provinces of the island of Sri Lanka, are assembled on the Mount of the Faithful, the Adam's Peak, which provides spiritual bliss to devotees of all denominations.
May the spirit of humanity bring us together. May the promise of the new millennium light the child within your hearts. And now, as the millennium drums unite and become one heartbeat.
Across to the United States, to Walt Disney's World Epcot Center in Orlando, Florida, for what's called the Tapestry of Nations Parade. Here, 155 performers, from puppeteers, dancers and musicians, representing art and culture from around the world, combine to form the centerpiece of Disney World's celebration of the century. It's created to move with the wind. The kinetic figures with names like Angel Girl, Birdman, Discman and Sprite were designed by the noted artist Michael Curry.
His famous creations include the award-winning puppets for The Lion King on Broadway.
From America, a country that perhaps has the dominant modern culture, to now France, a country with a whole different sort of culture. At the Palace of Versailles, despite all the damage from the recent storms, it must have played havoc with preparations, the French sense of style has triumphed yet again. We're about to see 1,500 guests in period costume at a very extravagant recreation of Louis XIV's most memorable royal dinner. The French may be republicans, but they haven't forgotten imperial glamour.
Well, this is the famous party Le Bal de Roy, which is being conducted at the Chateau de Versailles. Around 1,500 guests, mainly foreigners in fact, dressed in period costume, many of them, to echo the party of Louis XIV. Outside, apparently 15,000 trees have come down in the storms of the last week, but there's no sign of it. The French dignity and ability to put on these shows undeterred.
Magníficas de Sydney, Austrália, que será palco dos Jogos Olímpicos.
A meia-noite em Sydney foi assim. Você está vendo agora, está revendo as imagens da meia-noite em Sydney, na Austrália.
O país tem uma população pequena em relação ao seu território, mas que tem uma população muito alegre, fantasticamente voltada para o esporte e para as artes. E veja as imagens, que belas imagens. Opera House, os teatros mais bonitos de todo o mundo. Você acompanha as imagens de Sydney na Austrália. Faltam 11 minutos para a chegada do ano 2000 aqui no Brasil. Daqui a pouco tem o show da Gal Costa ao vivo. E você que agora deve estar abraçando o seu filho, abraçando a sua mulher. Você que deve estar abraçando o seu irmão, o seu vizinho do lado. A vocês todos desse país maravilhoso, feliz ano novo do fundo do coração. Porque ninguém mais que o brasileiro merece um feliz ano novo.
Pensar que no la tengo, sentir que la he perdido, oír la noche inmensa, más inmensa sin ella.
E apareceu a imagem de Pablo Neruda.
Al alma como al paso de los siglos. forza que mi amor no pudiera guardarla. La noche está estrellada y ella no está conmigo. La misma noche que hace blanquear los mismos árboles. Nosotros los entonces ya no somos los mismos, ya no somos los mismos, ya no somos los mismos. Ya no la quiero, es cierto, pero tal vez la quiero. Es tan corto el amor y es tan largo el olvido.
As imagens do nosso século, a visão do grande poeta.
E agora estamos no Brasil.
Com o grupo Waikiki. Imagens preparadas num clipe da Rede Record.
Foi um clipe especialmente feito para você.
Vamos ao som do Waikiki.
Horas e 54 minutos.
Estamos pertinho da chegada do ano 2000 no Brasil.
E nós vemos
imagens
aí
ao vivo de onde?
Ipanema.
Cidade maravilhosa do Rio de Janeiro. Show da Gal Costa ao vivo pela Rede Record. Imagens que 2 bilhões de telespectadores, quase a metade do mundo ligada nessas imagens do Brasil. A imagem é nossa, a emoção agora é do mundo. Se ao final me parece que da execução da ópera O Guarani, de Carlos Gomes, logo depois a Gal Costa, ao vivo e para o mundo inteiro, um pedaço do Brasil. A nossa parcela de alegria, a nossa colaboração com a arte dessa cantora fantástica, a nossa parcela de esperança para o mundo.
E lá vem ela, a maravilhosa Gal Costa. Meia-noite da cena.
Saúde, felicidade, trabalho.
Contagem regressiva para o ano 2000 no Brasil.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0!
Feliz ano 2000!
Feliz ano
para vocês
novo.
de todo o país! Que legal!
Grande, grande!
Veja o espetáculo que você acompanha na tela da Rede Record com a chegada do ano 2000 aqui no Brasil. Que você seja muito feliz, que você tenha todas as suas realizações e acompanhe esse show maravilhoso, espetáculo pirotécnico na praia de Ipanema, no Rio de Janeiro.
Uma belíssima queima de fogos.
Um feliz 2000 para você de todo o país.
Você vê imagens ao vivo de Ipanema, no Rio de Janeiro.
Imagens lindas da praia de Ipanema ao vivo. Um espetáculo acompanhado por milhares de pessoas na praia e por cerca de 2 bilhões de telespectadores em 150 países ao redor do planeta. Uma produção, né, Leonora? De 70 países, entre as quais o Brasil, representado pela Rede Record.
Exatamente. E a nossa família aqui da Record, todo mundo que está de plantão nessa noite, deseja para você que está aí em casa, no lugar mais longínquo do Brasil, um feliz ano novo. O pessoal que está na câmera, o pessoal da maquiagem que está aqui no estúdio, o pessoal da informática, segurando as pontas aqui para o computador ficar funcionando para receber o seu e-mail. Todo mundo aqui no estúdio desejando para você.
O Luiz Gonzaga Mineiro.
Exatamente. Todo mundo desejando para você um ano maravilhoso. A Record deseja que você tenha muita saúde, muita paz e muita felicidade nesse ano de 2000. E agora vamos para...
De Ipanema para a Ilha de Páscoa.
No Chile, vamos ao Chile.
Aí a chegada do ano 2000, comemorada como nunca. A promessa está sendo realmente cumprida. A festa de cores, os sons, surgindo os formatos de corações, o coração do tamanho deste Brasil. A alegria de estarmos juntos na chegada do ano 2000. A linda festa que o povo brasileiro faz nesta grande virada.
no ano 2000 é aqui na Globo, junto com todo o elenco que também deseja a você um feliz ano novo e 1000 anos de prosperidade. Tchim, tchim! E, é claro, um beijo do gordo.
A todos vocês, muito obrigado por estarmos juntos, por todo o carinho, por toda essa felicidade. Em nome da Globo eu sei que falo, não só em nome do elenco não, em nome de todos que trabalham duro para que a gente possa levar até você em todo o Brasil o nosso trabalho, que tem muito da nossa alma, mas muito, muito mesmo do nosso coração. Que Deus em sua imensa sabedoria possa nos dar.
Now, this is a quite extraordinary performance. It's the ritual of the Virgin and her rapture. I might say, though, that the mystery is told by a priest. 7 beautiful virgin women with black hair and cinnamon-coloured skin, dressed in ceremonial costume, portraying elegance and sensuality, are represented by 7 elderly women. They go forward in a single row towards the monument, idols of stone, as if they were looking for their approval. In a nearby cavern, we're to see 7 young men with painted bodies prepare for the celebration, in the company of 4 other older men. Later, strong men gallop on bare horseback. They go out to meet the women. The women, for their part, return with a very sensual dance of seduction and conquer the men's hearts.
Matahia uka koa, ua matarua uka koa, ua matatorua uka koa, ua mataha uka haro, ua matatahia uka koa. Ari te kapua, mai te vai a moeto, aka eru mana, o te pahe. Vai, vai, amore.
2000 Today on ABC, and we're coming now from Easter Island in the Eastern Pacific.
We live the greatest celebrations this century as we journey Australia-wide to welcome in the new millennium. All the excitement of 2000 Today, the Australian highlights, will soon be available on video. To reserve your copy of this truly spectacular event, please phone 1300 785 301. Also available now on CD.
That videotape and CD sound like something to remember the millennium by. James, of course, Australians remember Easter Island rather well for its own particular reasons.
Yes, well, for the mystery of the giant Easter Island statues, the biggest mystery, of course, being why they bear an uncanny resemblance to our former Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser. No one's quite sure why that was, whether he went there or they came here and saw him.
In a moment, we're going to see some jazz from where else? New Orleans or whatever your particular choice of pronunciation. You're a jazz buff?
I love jazz. Jazz is the greatest music ever because you can start playing something and by the end... So sometimes with bad jazz, with 4 instruments, by the end of it they're all playing different songs. But that's what improvised jazz is. Sometimes it coalesces into something of beauty and sometimes it coalesces into something of disparate elements. But you can't imagine, can you, Peter? We're going to be seeing a lot of stuff from the Americas, South America and, of course, North America in the afternoon. You can't imagine that the United States is going to let all this new millennium stuff pass in a subtle fashion, can you? They're not going to say, oh, Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Eiffel Tower, they had great fireworks. Well, we'll just leave it to them. They'll be out lashing fireworks to everything that moves, I think.
Trying to catch up, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. They have to be number one, don't they?
One of the real inspirations of the last few days, I've seen the Buena Vista Social Club, which, of course, are men in their 80s and 90s who have, as late as in their 90s, put together the most marvellous music. It's been a great success, of course, and the film is now out, the Winders film, which I really love. It gave me a great sense of inspiration for the new year, in fact, to see such charm and such elegance in music. We're now going to go to an old tradition in New Orleans, which is a requiem for the old millennium, very much a tradition in the American jazz culture, where greats of jazz are mourned by requiem. We go to St Augustine's Church. Jazz funerals, in fact, date back to the 19th century, and they pay great respect to those that have been legends in the past. Now, the legend of the century.
There's a party going on. There's a party going on down here. Welcome to New Orleans. There's a party going on. A party going on. There's a hearty party going on. Where fun is number one. So come on. There's a party going on right now. In the heat of the South, down in New Orleans, in the land of the good times and Cajun queens, where to tickle the ivory all night long. Come on, everybody, there's a party going on, and it's wall-to-wall fun for everyone, and there's plenty enough to go around. So put on your dancing shoes and get in the groove. You've got nothing to lose but to move. Drink, 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 and be merry. Drink, drink, drink in the city of the mighty. Drink, 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 and be merry. There's a party going on, a party going on. There's a hearty party going on, and fun is number one. So come on, there's a party going on right now. There's a party going on, a party going on. There's a party going on. Going on, a party going on. There's a party going on, party going on. We will be back after this for a New Orleans tradition that took a brand new meaning today.
We have prayed, we have sung, we have meditated about all the tragedies and the problems, all the negative things of the old century, of the old millennium, and we want to bury all our problems, especially the evil problems in our life.
I'm Wanda Ruzon, and I'm your grand marshal for today. Taking this Millennium Jazz funeral on home. We're gonna have a hot time in old South. One second now. Check it out.
The funeral itself has its roots in African tradition. When one died, he had to have a proper or fitting burial. And then there was a parade of mourners who followed doing chants and rhythms. The Treme neighborhood is the oldest African-American neighborhood in this country. Many of the jazz greats known all over the world either lived in Treme or played their music and spent many of their days in Treme. The dirges that you hear in the beginning of a jazz funeral came from the French martial type of music. And now we're on our way to Basin Street. Ah, Basin Street, my Basin Street. Child, it's the place where the old folks meet, down in New Orleans. It's where jazz was alive in all the brothels and whorehouses. We're on our way, though, to the cemetery, to St. Louis #1.
We are here today to declare the end of the old millennium and the beginning of the new millennium. And with the old millennium goes so many of the great triumphs, but also the tragedies as we start fresh and we start new to embrace the new millennium.
We are hearing the joyous, up-tempo, second-line beat music because the millennium is cut loose and on to better days we go. Whew, what a second line. Child, I have jumped on my feet, I have clapped my hands, and I have shook my booty. And that's what brings it all down home, down in New Orleans.
Welcome back. Now, a tribute to New Orleans' man of the century, Louis Satchmo Armstrong, featuring trumpeter Nick Payton.
So what else would they be doing in New Orleans right now but playing great jazz? And that's Nicholas Payton, the renowned jazz trumpeter.
And the fantastic thing about seeing any footage of New Orleans is that you instantly, particularly people playing jazz, you instantly feel square and uncool, which I now do.
Oh, I saw you swinging along there.
I was swinging, baby.
Well, coming up in 2000 today, we're going to go to the Caribbean. They know how to party, of course. It's just about time for the Caribbean midnight. Will they outdo the Brazilians? With sunset just recently over Easter Island as the sun sweeps back across the Pacific. So here on 2000 today, let's look now at one of our great Australian voices.
My name is Jan Sandbergs. I'm a painter living and working in Melbourne. We're going through a period, I believe, at the cusp of the millennium where the art world is in a state of an intellectual conformity. Therefore, it's more and more important for artists to emerge on the sidelines, questioning, being skeptical, being mavericks. Originality is something that's so elusive. The good artists still do aim for some sort of originality. We have some significant artists working here, both young and old, experimenting in various ways, using all kinds of new materials and technologies. I think our job is to try to spot them. The essence of a mark is still very important, that basic handmade mark on paper or a canvas with a brush. It's survived all those millenniums, and still at the beginning of our new millennium, here it is, it's still there. Despite all the new technologies and the new methods of working and so on, the essence of visual art is still the original mark. We work trying to make some sort of record of our time. How significant that is that's to be judged by others later on.
Well, it's happening all around the world, of course, the celebration of midnight. And we're going to spend the next few minutes with some real icons too. What else but Beethoven's Ninth and the Ode to Joy? We're also going to hear a rendition of Danny Boy, from Ireland, I'm sure. And sunset over South Africa. Just a couple of the things coming up, as well as some shots from Antarctica, where, of course, in midsummer, it's light for the new millennium.
crying, the darkness multiplying, and weary hearts deny.